I've got some words up here, but because I'm an old queen, in case I forget, I'm going to put them down right there in case I forget. I can, refer to that. Anyhow, yes, my name is Miss Mona Mae, but actually my full Sunday name is Miss Mona Mae. She may not, but she probably will. Yeah. Some people say I'm easy, but I just like to think, well, I'm accommodating. Oh, yeah, I swear. So anyhow, I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I'm especially happy that my husband's here tonight. Did I just say husbands plural? I didn't mean to say that out loud. Actually, my husband of 20 years is over there. My husband right now, but I think my husband for tomorrow is over there somewhere. I hope he's making me some lasagna. Nah, I'm just teasing. I really am just teasing. Not really. Make that lasagna for me. Anyhow, I do have a few trigger warnings for y'all tonight. And my warning is, if you have a trigger, I'll probably pull it. I'm not in some, horrible Ricky Gervais kind of way. Accidentally, because you see, when you get to be an old queer like me, you will have lived through so many different things. You have collected so many what are called personal experiences, life experiences. Those are those things that make you stronger if they don't kill you. Well, by now I should be fucking immortal. So anyhow, I am going to talk some about my life, and a little bit about growing up queer in the Deep South, about coming out during the early AIDS epidemic, about my flirtations with religion, and then moving to Scotland. So, I'm going to have to talk about racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, all those sorts of things. Probably just say a little bit about all of those, and I'm sure there's a few other isms that I can talk about too, of all my experience. Anyhow, when you get to be an old queer like me, people my age, that lived through the 70s and 80s and all the horribleness there, we did learn to have a superpower, and that superpower was humor. It just got us through so much. For example, I'll give you a few examples. It was about 1984. I was in Atlanta with some friends walking down the street, and we ran into a friend of ours, Richard, that we hadn't seen in ages. And Richard looked good. He lost weight, and we were like, "Girl, you look amazing. You're hot. What have you done?" And Richard says, "I have AIDS." Tumbleweed, total silence. That kind of silence that just, the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. And then Fred, thank God, says, "So Richard, do you have any other beauty tips for us?" And we were all died laughing, Richard. And that just broke the ice. Another example was about the same time, 1984-85, it was a time of horrific homophobia in the States in general, but especially in the Southeast where I grew up. So anyhow, when we were having a gay pride parade and, marching through the streets of Atlanta, and we went to the park for a weekend festival, including a volleyball tournament. Miss Mona Mae liked to play volleyball back then when she was a young girl. Anyhow, all of a sudden, there were all of these right-wing Christian homophobes carrying signs and placards, shouting horrible things. The kinds of things they're saying about trans folk these days. Well, they were saying them about all of us, and they got right on our volleyball court. And us volleyball queens were not happy. We're not standing for that. So we channeled our inner cheerleaders. And if you've ever seen any tacky American films with cheerleaders, that's the kind of energy that we were trying to channel at that moment. And so we thought, we've got spirit. Yes, we do. We've got spirit. How about you? And the homophobes were just kind of freaking out, so we did it again. We've got spirit. Yes, we do. We've got spirit. How about you? And they were stunned silent. So we've got more. We've got more. We win. We just died laughing. Well, they were completely freaked out that we had turned the tables on them, and they just ran away. That's right. So a bit of humor goes a long way. So if I do say something tonight that triggers anything for you, you can just borrow my superpower and laugh at the unlaughable. I tell you, it really does help out a lot. So anyhow, my next thing, what was I going to, oh yeah, let me talk a little bit about where I grew up now. So, imagine me in the Deep South, a very beautiful, gay, queer boy in the Deep South. Okay, think Deliverance. Have you ever seen Deliverance? Okay, well, so anyhow, that was me, beautiful young thing in the Deep South, and bad enough that I was homosexual, but my family was Catholic, and I'm not sure what was worse. At least I could hide being a homosexual. And yeah, well, anyhow, we were the only Catholic family in our county until I was about 13, and then the Rosados moved in. They were Puerto Rican, so we weren't so bad anymore. Of course, you know, they were Catholic too. We were Catholic too, but they were dark, so they were anti-American. So somehow they were. Anyhow, we got to be really good friends. And then about a year and a half later, the Rosados and us both got an upgrade in social standing because the Van Worts moved in, and the KKK was apoplectic. Because there was a Catholic family, there was a brown Catholic family, but then the Jews moved in too. And I tell you what, you know, something about those fragile white people, if they see more than two minorities together, they freak out. Like, oh my God, they're going to take over our lives, you know. Well, that's where I grew up. And I thought, yeah, I'm a budding homosexual. I just have to get out of there. I just couldn't take it there. So I went to the big city of Atlanta. That's right. And I thought I was going to leave all that sectarianism away, but then I moved to Glasgow in 2008. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So anyhow, I went to Atlanta University, and I was studying philosophy and religion, because I was going to be a priest. Yeah, imagine me as a priest. I'm not that the only gay priest in the world, but anyhow, I eventually got kicked out of the seminary program for being gay, and my closet door was just blown wide open. And you know, I look back on that time, and I sure do feel bad for my mom and daddy, because not only did they find out that their favorite child was a homosexual, but he was abusing drugs and sleeping with his favorite priest all at the same time. And I wondered why they weren't supportive. Well, I'm just glad I didn't kill them with all that at that particular time. Think about it. Anyhow, I did a lot of philosophy, so I finished my philosophy degree, and then I looked for a philosophy job. And I ended up in retail banking. Well, to make a long story short, I escaped corporate America and ended up being a social worker. I've been a social work academic in Miami, Florida. And I tell you, if you're going to be queer, Miami's not a bad place to be in the States. You know, it was all right. And then I decided to take, you know, a European vacation, the kind that, you know, us Americans do, where we do Europe and 2 or 3 days running around. Oh, that's my family castle. I feel so at home here. Well, I wasn't quite that bad. But as part of that trip, I did have 10 days here in Scotland visiting an old friend from university, and she had told me that she had met the perfect man for me, and I was like, girl, no, that's not right. I live in Florida, and But anyhow, while I was here visiting her, she set me up on a blind date with him, and she was right. 2 years later, I was living in Ayrshire. South Beach to Saltcote. Anyhow, I did tell him that I would come move to Scotland to be with him, as long as I did live in his hometown. Anybody here from Barhead? Sorry. Anyhow, you know, moving to another country is just it's so confusing sometimes. Like, you know, I moved to Scotland, it was the 30th of June, and I was so jet lagged, just so jet lagged. I went to bed that night, and I woke up in the morning, and I heard a parade. Oh, it's a gay pride parade! My first day is gone! I was just so happy. So I got dressed, I went running down. Hi, y'all! There's a new girl in town! Well, my husband pulled me back and yelling at me all mad. I'm like, what? But you know, looking back on it now, I should have known that wasn't a gay pride parade. I mean, no gay man would be caught dead wearing that much orange. All right, well, that was 20 years ago. I moved here in my 40s, and now I'm in my 60s, and back then I realized that, the isms were so much better here than back home. Sure, there was some racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it was back in the States. Well, except for ageism. Ageism is much worse here, and now for fuck's sake, I'm in that category. But and the funny thing about older LGBTQ people is, well, we become invisible. And when we get old, we become invisible for some reason. I think partly it's because older people aren't seen to be asexual, just in general, so sexual orientation is easy to get erased when you get old. And I don't know why that is, because older people are just as randy as younger people. We sometimes don't do quite as energetically, or we get a cramp and have to stop for a cup of tea before we finish. But that's just as much as young people do. But queer culture is very youth orientated. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is really youth orientated. So sometimes, us older queer people aren't welcome in some of the younger spaces. And, well, that is one of the reasons Miss Mona Mae decided to come out of her mothballs and loudly proclaim, we're here, we're queer, and we're old as fuck.